Okay, so before we start doing that, are there any requests for things you want me to kind of debug, figure out how it needs to work, like we were dealing with his thing last time? Go ahead.
So I decided to throw out the whole thing you said.
Okay.
Because they don't move in groups, like as they turn, like they just spin. They don't move individually.
Correct, yeah. Okay.
I don't want to have them move individually stand.
Okay.
I figured out something else for that.
Okay.
But so I have some walls that fall down, and then I want people to climb over them, or at least go around them, but they walk through the walls. Because it's after an animation. If I can set it as not walkable, but it moves from that position, so it's not.
It's not baked into the Navmesh. Okay.
Where they can walk.
So, but you know where the wall falls?
Yeah.
Can you put a plane down there and mark the plane as not walkable, and then just turn it invisible so you don't see it? That way it's baked into the Navmesh. So when the wall falls, it's down, but now you've actually still marked the ground where it is falling as a place where they can't walk.
But what I'm getting is that he wants to be able to walk there before it falls, but not after it falls. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that'll be like, you can never walk there. So
yeah.
Why can't I walk here? Oh, it falls down. Well, okay, but why couldn't I walk there before?
And then after, because I made a custom animation for it to fall, then how can I walk on top of it afterwards?
So you actually want to be able to walk on top of it afterwards?
Yes.
Okay. So it seems like those are two different questions. You're asking, how do you not walk on it? And then also, how do you walk on top of it?
Not walk through it, but walk on it.
Ah, okay.
Between on and through.
Okay, I gotcha. So right now, so initially they can't walk through it. Right. It's fine, but when it falls, when it falls, it's changed position. So you want them to be able to kind of walk over it, so it's like a little ramp type thing. So what if we also then did a plane? So you have a plane and kind of set it to the right angle for when the thing is, and have that be a rigid body that they could walk on.
Right.
And then what you do is you hide that plane up in the sky. Remember its position where it needs to be eventually. Hide it in the sky. When you play this animation for this thing to fall down, drop it down so it and have the renderer turned off so you don't actually see it.
Right.
Then when they walk up, it'll walk over the thing that's currently there because it's actually walking on the invisible plane.
So make it in the beginning when it's walkable.
Oh, you don't need to.
Yeah, this isn't even a Navmesh thing.
Right.
Yeah, this is just, here's a surface and I'm allowed to walk on.
You don't have to make it to let it know you don't need walk on it.
Well, I mean, I don't think so, because this is going to be a brand new surface that, I mean, at the very least, it's not going to be not allowed to be walked on. Is this? Oh, hold on. These guys are traversing. These are not your. This isn't your player.
Right.
This is Navmesh agents.
Yeah.
So then, with that in mind, it would need to be baked. So the question is that if you have it drop down first as a walkable, bake it, then move it, that would technically be a walkable baked surface on there. So the question is, would it return back when you come back to it?
That it's not walkable and the thing isn't there. That there isn't just an invisible plane with something.
Right.
The thing that you don't need even though you don't need the Navmesh, that you just put the collider box.
Well, no, because he has Navmesh agents, so these are not his normal player.
But the object that you want to drop down, you don't need anything on it. You just create an invisible object, turn off the mesh render, put the box collider, not put the trigger on it, so you can basically work through it.
Right, but he wants his guys to be able to walk over. He wants his NPCs, his artificial intelligence guys, to be able to walk over it after the wall has fallen. And initially that wall is there, it's not a walkable surface. Now it's fallen down, he wants it to be a walkable surface. So he wants to modify the Navmesh Yeah, that's an interesting question. So let's experiment with something here.
Wait, what if you have two different like planes with the different baked nav meshes, and then you teleport the player from one to the other, and so like they don't know that they've actually changed where they are, but now you're on.
So you have a duplicate scene.
Yeah, just like somewhere else in the world.
It seems extremely inefficient.
Well, but that
programmatically do something with the nav mesh.
So let me try to create a something here. So let's get rid of some of these things.
Well, and if you turn the renderer off, then it shouldn't use as much memory.
I'm not even worried about that. I'm just wondering, is there a way, because then every single time he changes one thing in one of the scenes, one of the areas, he has to duplicate that change someplace else. That's going to be a headache to kind of maintain those things.
That's fair.
Okay, so that's our plane. So we're going to put a wall in here.
I actually have a wall, like a base, like that, and then a separate wall portion, and it falls. The actual wall part falls and uses the base as like a ramp against the ground. So that's what I'm set up like.
Stretch this a little bit. All right, so I'll make this a little skinnier. All right, so there's my wall. All right, and then what happens to your wall? Your wall starts off like this, right?
I have a base that it sits on, so I have a wall and then base, and the wall part will fall down. And
okay, so you have like a wall on top of a wall.
Yeah.
So this guy would kind of be sitting on a cube.
Yeah.
So if let's just duplicate this guy. And nothing happens with the base. It's the wall that's on top of the base. Okay.
I have the base a little bit higher. But yeah. So at the beginning I know not to like walk around the base.
But these are NPCs that are going to walk around this. Okay. So with it like this, your NPC should walk around this wall.
Right.
Right. And then once it falls over, once this guy tips to one side, then your NPC should be able to walk over it. That's the scenario you want to create. Okay. So let's give ourselves an NPC. So let's call this guy this is going to be the base. Yep.
How do you, so you don't fall through the core, like the plane that you have in the core? You do rigid body for that, right?
You do rigid body with box collider.
Okay. Can you show me where that is? Because I can't find it in my player.
Well, it's got to be the surface. So your player itself has a rigid body associated with it. But actually, we have gravity turned off because I think weren't we having issues with the scene last time?
Yeah. Can you put multiple box colliders on something?
No, you only have one collider on an individual thing.
So
You
then,
only have one of a given type.
So let me actually do something here.
You can put like a spear glider.
I'm going to get rid of this plane, and then we're going to put a new plane in here.
so basically my walls have 3 separate objects.
So I'm going to add a plane. And let's give ourselves a couple of materials here so we can see the difference. So I am answering your question. We're just doing it in pieces here. Well, I'm answering Alexis's question right now while we give ourselves a more dependable surface, and then we're answering your question. All right, so I'm gonna make instead of having a texture, which I think might have been what screwed us up last time, I'm gonna create a couple of materials here. So I'm gonna create a new material just to give us some colors. All right, so we have a red material. I can't duplicate a material. That seems somewhat unreasonable. Okay. So I'll create another new material. And this guy will be a greenish thing. And we'll create another new material. Oh, I definitely did. Curcio's working on that project, so we need to turn off notifications for that. Preferences. Notifications. Okay. And then this material, we'll make this guy blue. All right, so there's the red wall, blue base, green floor. So let's drop this base down here. Close enough. Actually, is that close enough? All right, that's definitely in the ground now. Okay, so now we have our player Mary, who's currently up in the sky, and we'll let Mary drop onto our plane here. All right, definitely above. Mary currently has gravity turned on. Mary does not currently have a box collider on the, but does the first person character have it? Well, that's that blinder thing we had set up. Let's dump that. All right, so Mary's sinking through because she does not have a box collider. Why isn't there a box collider on Mary? And why is the position of the first person character so different than Mary? I'm going to reset the position of that guy.
Oh, did you end up moving the camera to get the text in view?
Oh, that might be true. I think we did.
The issue I'm having is it's not like when I run the game, it's not sinking through the floor, but it's like when I'm trying to move my camera view, if I accidentally move it down too far and then try to move forward, it will move me through.
Okay. Does this character controller have the... Because I don't see a box collider on us here.
Mine has a body. I would
Here, just so we have a clean thing here, I'm going to delete this. Yeah. So that is our standard asset. Is it characters? First person, prefabs, FPS controller. Let's move everything back to 0, 0. I'll reset the position of that. I'll reset the position of this. We'll move our first person character over here a little bit. You said you had a body collider?
Yeah, because I used a player from SteamVR.
I understand. So you're not using the first person controller. You're using something different. Okay. So the body collider, I think, is just a capsule collider on your person.
Yeah.
This guy is not on the ground. And he's not on the ground because he's currently set as kinematic. Now he'll fall through the ground.
I don't want kinematic selected, so it will fall to the ground.
Well, now it looks like he's sinking through the ground. So this is his collider. It's that capsule collider I see there. I wonder what it's attached to. Is it maybe part of this character controller? Yeah, it looks like that's part of this character controller thing. So if this thing has a height of 1.8, then we'd want to have the FPS controller at a position 1.8 on Y. Because if I have it at Y at 0, we should feel like we're halfway in the ground. Still feels like we're high, but is that just because we're...
I hear that.
Yeah, I think everything else is just like
too small?
Yeah.
Or you're too big.
Just make everything else huge.
Well, we could just change the height of this guy to 0.5. Let's see, because he's kinematic. Oh, we did fall off. I didn't think we... Do I have kinematic still turned on? Let's throw him way up in the air. All right, so he definitely dropped. The kinematic says react. Gravity says I have gravity. Kinematic says react to other surfaces. Or is it other colliders? If I turn kinematic off, we start sinking through. So I guess if you turn kinematic on, does your guy still fall through?
Yeah, I already had that on. Because it's not like it's falling through, it's
doing the sinking thing?
So, like, it's not doing anything. Like, it's not falling or anything. And then...
But you have gravity turned on?
And then if I go like this, and then go forward, like, this way.
Okay. So your guy... So you do have gravity. If you set him way up in the air and then turn it on, does he drop down?
I do not.
Because that's what I expected to happen with this guy with the kinematic thing. So I feel like this first person controller thing, this character controller, does something internally to offset that. Because right now, I have this guy pretty far up in the air. And let's just set him at 50. So he's up there.
It's just putting me back on the ground.
So you are coming to the ground.
But it's not falling to the ground. It's already on the ground. When I hit play, it's still on the ground.
How high up did you put him?
I have my Y at 423.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty high. Because I definitely saw my guy drop here.
So I don't know if it's just like a difference with the player I'm using, but...
Well, you're using, you said from SteamVR, which, the camera rig?
I don't know, I just dragged, I didn't pick a specific one, I just dragged the gave me one. So I think it's the default one.
Well, SteamVR has a camera, but the reason we've been using the first person controller before we actually get into VR is because this is the one that lets us move around as if we're in VR. Then we're going to replace this guy with our VR, either camera rig or the VR player, which comes with the hand controls and all that stuff. So you don't know what the name of the rig you're using is? I mean, that's a pretty important piece. And is there a reason why you're not using the first person controller?
I had just talked to Tim and he's told me to use SteamVR.
He just asked me what I use for my VR.
Yeah, I mean, if you're testing it in VR, that's your intention, then you are going to do that. So probably next class or the class after, we'll move into where the VR setup is, and we'll replace our first-person controller guy with either the VR camera rig or the player. I prefer the player prefab that's in there.
The PlayerOne allows you to move around WASD and everything. But the problem with that one that I found is, for some reason, the colliders and stuff aren't working, so you can just drive straight to the floor and stuff.
Yeah, because that's my problem.
Well, so do we already have SteamVR in here?
I thought you.
We don't. I mean, the good reason not to have SteamVR in here is that when you launch it, it's going to launch this window every single time. So let me.
Have SteamVR with the clear option.
Oh yeah. You don't have the SteamVR program installed. So if I go and grab SteamVR here, this is the SteamVR plugin. This is what we'll eventually use to replace our first-person camera with this guy. And I'll just bring the generic thing in, which is the camera rig. So I want to say that the default, if you don't have a VR headset plugged in, doesn't let you move as well as our first-person controller does. If it does let us move as well, then I'll do this scene with the camera rig, because that should be more generic. And then we'll knock his wall over. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and delete this first-person controller. Go into SteamVR. Go to prefabs. And we have a thing in here called the camera rig.
I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to go with the keyboard once you override and add it.
Oh, you think the player one does?
Yeah, the PlayerOne does.
Okay. Then we'll use the player one. I like that one anyways. So that's in, is it extras and then core? Nope.
I believe it's in here.
Interaction, then core.
And I just drag that.
Yeah, see, this allows us to fly through the scene, but it does not make your actual player move. That player's position is not changing. Look at the position over here to the side.
Is it changing like a camera position or something?
Yeah, it's letting you fly through the scene, but this is not actually.
Okay. You'd recommend like for creating this until we do like the actual VR to use it first.
Yeah.
Can you show me like that again?
Yeah, so the first person controller is inside of the standard asset library. So if you go to Asset Store and just do a search for standard assets, it's this guy right here, Unity Essentials, Standard Assets. And then once you have that inside here, there's a thing under characters, first person, prefabs. Here's your first person controller. All right.
I found that collecting.
Yep.
Yeah, because I put a second for my there is an order for collecting the coin. So there is a 1 second I put for disappear that coin and audio book. So that's why it takes a 3 minutes.
Okay.
So if I remove that second, then audio will not appear. So,
All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a cube in here that's going to be my Navmesh agent, so we can watch him. And then we're let's just make sure he can path around the wall. So we'll put 2 cubes. It's going to be like a love story. So we'll have this cube. We'll go over here. This cube will go over here. And let's just scooch our guy out of the way a little bit here. We'll rotate him here in a few minutes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to say that our plane, I'm going to bring up the navigation. And we're going to say that this guy object, navigation static, walkable. So the whole plane is walkable by default. But then we're going to say that this base specifically is not going to be walkable, right? No, only for this object. So I'm making the base itself not walkable. Okay. And that base isn't going to change, but what is going to happen is I'm going to take the wall and I'm going to make this wall, this is just my first attempt at this, I'm going to make the wall walkable. But I think what you've discovered is that when that wall moves, the nav mesh doesn't change. The nav mesh is not attached to the wall. Okay. So actually, I won't even do that. Let's just leave it. We won't make him part of the nav mesh. Okay. Well, actually, what we might as well do is we might as well make him not walkable. Just as a... Okay, so that should be the stuff. We'll go ahead and bake. Okay, so it's given this area around that base where the guys have to travel. We'll take our 2 cubes. We'll add nav mesh agents to these guys. Okay, so those guys are both nav mesh agents. We'll create a little script. Let's just create a little empty scene manager guy here. Okay, and then scene to SM, scene manager. Drag that script in here. And let's give him access to those two different game objects. Public game object. Actually, you know, I wonder, well, let me do this. I need to bring in the AI using Unity engine.ai. Let's see if it'll let me connect those two guys. So scene manager has two Navmesh agents. Yep, lets me connect them. Since I don't really need the game object portion of them for right now, it just saves me a couple of seconds. All right, then back here in start, we'll go ahead and say c1.set destination to c2.transform. Is it transform.position? All right, so we should see this guy walk the nav mesh now, right?
Is he close enough to the...
Oh, I think they might be floating a little bit. Failed initialization. Oh, it's still complaining about HMDs too. Oh, these guys are actually stuck in the ground. 0.5. .5.
That one looks like it's a bug.
Yeah, but I don't think it is. So that's at 0.5. That's at 0.5. I wonder if it's not. Well, I don't really like this error I'm getting down here about the HMD not found dealy. That was all from that SteamVR thing, since they don't have a headset plugged in. Let me change these guys to just be game objects, and I'll grab there. Okay. So then we're going to say c1.get component nav mesh agent dot set destination to C2 dot transform dot position. And then let's hook those guys up. All right. Well, so that worked. We just need to turn ourselves around so we can see it. And then probably also slow the dudes down a little bit. Okay, so definitely path around it. And let me slow down the two agents. Put it at a speed of 1. Okay, so we definitely have a thing baked now. So now what we want to do is we want to have a key that will knock over the wall. So I'm actually going to do it based on a key. So I want to do one key that makes him go to the other guy naturally, and then another key that knocks over the wall and then tells him to go to the other guy. So he tries to take the shortest path, because you want that second shortest path to be over the wall, right? Okay. So we'll go back in here. And in update, we'll say if input dot get key down, key code dot A for A key attack. If that's pressed, then have the guy run. Let's test that one. These things just randomly decide to pop up notifications all at once. Like some of those were old. All right, so let's make sure it only does it when I press the A key. Okay, so now he's going. So now what we want to do is we were going to have the S key knock the wall over. So this wall, we need to make a rigid body, and then we'll just add a force onto it.
Okay.
And that should make it fall over, right?
Yeah.
So is that how you're making yours fall over?
I add an animation.
Well, that makes it look pretty, but it's still, I mean, physically your wall is laying on its side when it's done, right? Yeah. So we'll add a rigid body to this guy. Okay. And then for the S key, I need to give myself access to the wall. So public game object wall. And then when we hit the S key, if input dot get key down key code dot s. Then we'll go ahead and grab the rigid body of the wall and add a force to it. Okay, so we're going to say this dot wall dot get component rigid body dot add force, and the force is going to be in a direction. So vector 3 dot right. Let's do this times 10. We'll see if that's a hard enough shove. This is the Superman throw. Oh, S is one of my commands for. Oh no, it still worked. No, because S still or A still worked. It was that wasn't the problem. So this guy has a rigid body.
What happens if he's partially below, like inside of the base?
Oh, like is he stuck there?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. The base is. So let's say this guy has a height of 0.35 is the base height. And then we're going to say the wall is at a position on Y. So it should be 1.65. It doesn't look right.
No, when you change the base, that also changes the wall because it's the wall is the,
Oh, it's a child of it. Right. Well, so I guess what we can do then, we can disconnect these. So they just happen to be sitting next to each other.
the way I have them. The wall and the base are children of an empty object.
I'm going to just start the wall leaned over a little bit and see if I can just make it fall. I'm grabbing the wrong. All right, so that's going to be 0, 0. All right. Okay, that definitely falls.
If you flip it the other way, then it'll fall towards the one that's trying to climb over it.
Right. All right, and then you want them to walk over that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you play it right now, he should go through a wall, even though it has a rigid body. That's what's happening.
Well, he didn't go through the wall.
Yeah, he did. The part that fell over, he went through that.
Oh! He walked where he was allowed to walk before.
Right.
Yeah, he went around the base. It just happened to be that it looked like he went through the wall because that wasn't marked as a position that wasn't walkable.
Even though it has a rigid body, it's going through it.
Mm-hmm. So my feeling is then if we So can we use the Navmesh agent destination thing? And at the same time, because we can definitely make this walkable. After the wall falls, do your guys immediately start attacking?
Maybe.
So what I'm thinking is that would it be reasonable to have your guy go from his current position to a position inside the wall before taking normal paths? So like right now when the wall's up, it paths around the wall. Once the wall falls, and your guys would start attacking, at that point in time, before they start using the nav mesh again, they position themselves inside of the wall by just taking a beeline over the wall to get right into the. But I'm guessing you have a crowd of guys.
Yeah.
And they all need to kind of coalesce and go over the wall.
Yeah. It doesn't all have to be in one spot, but.
Yeah, yeah. Can we, let me look at something.
If the wall is just another Navmesh agent, wouldn't they be walking around it until they can walk over it?
That's not a horrible idea.
But then the nav meshes aren't connected.
No, but what he's saying is don't make the Well, hold on. Let me finish looking this up. Unity runtime nav mesh. Can we rebake? So we have a public nav mesh surface. Where does that come from? And then we tell each of those guys to build the nav mesh on the surface. So if I go into so after I press the A key for it to go, let's see what that nav mesh. So they're passing some stuff in called nav mesh surfaces. Let's look at this.
So let's look at how we can, it actually puts the Navmesh link in the kind of same position relative to the game object. So these values are in local object space, rotated along the Z or Z axis. Create our environment 4, and this is going to be positive 90 rotate.
So those are the nav mesh surfaces. So when I click on navigation here, These are surfaces. What do I have selected there? That's the plane. So maybe we just need to get the wall. Get the Navmesh surface from the wall. This.wall.get component Navmesh. Yeah, how do they actually get those pieces in? It's called Navmesh surface. So game object AI Navmesh surface. So does that mean that that plane, here's the mesh renderer.
Was this saying create a new game object?
Well, I think that was saying when we do add components.
Oh.
Game object AI Navmesh surface. I guess here, why don't we do this? Why don't we take about a 10-minute break? I'll finish watching this video and see how they're getting the Navmesh surfaces in there, and then we'll pick up from there. Sound good?